You ever notice that moment, when she's still talking, still moving around the kitchen, but something in her energy shifts? She isn't listening to you anymore. She's scanning you, measuring you, not by your words but by your reactions. It's the moment every man feels deep in his stomach, that quiet dread of realizing the woman in front of him no longer sees him as a man, but as something to manage. And you can sense it without her saying a word. The way she sighs when you speak. The way her eyes drift away when you enter the room. The way she forgets to touch you for days. You try to fix it. You buy flowers, plan dates, talk more, apologize faster, and somehow it only gets worse. Because here's the truth no one tells you. Every time you try to please her, she loses a little more respect. Every time you trade your peace for her approval, she loves you less. And the most painful part? You think you're saving the relationship, but you're not. You're burying it alive, one soft apology at a time. Modern relationships have twisted men into something unrecognizable. The protector has become the pleaser. The leader has become the listener. The man who once made her pulse race now makes her roll her eyes. And it didn't happen overnight. It happened the moment you started fearing her emotions more than losing her. That's the real beginning of the end. Because women can sense fear like blood in the water. They can smell when you're uncertain, when you hesitate before saying no, when you lower your voice to keep the peace. She might say she wants sensitivity, vulnerability, softness, but deep down what she craves is gravity. The weight of a man who doesn't flinch. The silence of a man who means what he says. And when that disappears, when she sees that she can bend you with a tone, break you with a tear, or control you with silence, something shifts in her. Not because she's cruel, but because her biology demands strength. And when she doesn't feel it in you, she starts to create chaos, just to find out if it's still there. That's the secret psychology behind her drama. She's not trying to ruin you. She's trying to wake you up. She's saying, please show me that I can't destroy you. But most men don't hear that plea. They hear threat. They respond with apology. And that's when her respect dies. Quietly, completely, forever. Every woman fears a man who can look her in the eyes and say, calmly, I don't need this. Because those 4 words strip away her illusion of control. They remind her that love is a choice, not a leash. And nothing terrifies a woman more than realizing she's not your whole world. When you can stand there, steady, unmoved, and let her storms crash against your calm, you stop being the man she manages and become the man she can't forget. That's not manipulation. That's balance. That's what she's been testing for all along, even if she'll never admit it. There's a moment in every relationship when the power silently shifts. You don't notice it at first. It's not the day she yells, or the night she sleeps facing the wall. It's quieter. It's when you start choosing peace over truth. When you hold back what you want to say just to avoid another argument. When you start convincing yourself that it's easier to stay silent than to be misunderstood. That's the beginning of submission, not in her, but in you. And once a woman senses it, everything changes. See, a woman doesn't fall in love with a man because he's nice. She falls in love because he has edges, because his presence anchors her chaos. Because when her emotions start spinning, he doesn't get swept into the storm with her. He stands firm and reminds her where safety is. But when you start walking on eggshells, afraid to upset her, she feels it immediately. You become something she can shape, not something she can respect. At first, she might not even realize it. She'll keep testing you, small things at first. She'll make a sharp comment and watch how you react. She'll criticize something you care about and wait to see if you defend it. She'll withdraw affection just to see if you chase it. Every test has one question underneath. Can I still trust you to stay strong when I'm not? But when you fail enough of those tests, when you start trying to earn back her warmth instead of commanding it, something deep inside her shuts off. You can see it in her body, her posture changes. Her voice changes. Her eyes lose that softness that used to melt when she looked at you. And that's when the slow death begins. Because here's the truth every man needs to understand. Attraction dies not from arguments, but from imbalance. When one person worships and the other one rules, love rots. You can't make someone desire you by trying harder. You can only remind them of why they desired you in the first place, by becoming unshakable again. There's a saying, every man is tested by the woman he loves. Most men hear that and think it's about drama, but it's not. It's about calibration. Women are emotional creatures, and that's not an insult, it's design. Emotion is their way of feeling safety. So when she senses that you've lost your backbone, she creates friction. Not because she enjoys chaos, but because she's desperate for the feeling of stability. She wants to feel your strength again, even if she has to provoke it. But most men make the fatal mistake. They think the way to restore peace is to be even nicer. They listen longer. They explain more. They agree to everything. And all that does is convince her she's alone with a man who has no gravity left. You know what happens next? She starts to look elsewhere for that weight. Not always another man, but sometimes in her career, her friends, her independence. Anything that gives her the polarity she no longer feels with you. She'll start saying things like, I just need space. Or, I'm not happy anymore. But what she really means is you've become too safe, too predictable, too manageable. And deep down, that terrifies her. Because no woman ever dreams of taming a man. She dreams of finding one she can't. When she says she wants equality, what she means emotionally is she wants partnership with someone she can still look up to. Not a servant disguised as a lover. Not a man who apologizes for his own masculinity. Not someone who's scared to lead. The tragedy is that most men confuse leadership with dominance. But real leadership in love isn't about control, it's about calm. It's about being the one who doesn't collapse when she does. It's about being able to say, I hear you, but I'm not bending on this. Without anger, without fear, without the need to justify it. Because the moment you do that, the moment you reclaim your center, something changes in her eyes. That panic she carried for months disappears. That hostility softens. That distant tone you thought was permanent suddenly melts into quiet respect. Because now she knows she can't break you. And that's what she's been craving all along. Every woman fears hearing, I'm done trying to prove myself to you. Because those words mean the performance is over. It means you've stopped playing by her emotional script. It means the man she thought she could mold is gone. And in his place stands the man she first fell for. It's a strange paradox. The moment you stop chasing her approval is the moment she starts chasing your respect. Because in that instant, the dynamic resets. You're no longer orbiting her emotions. She's drawn back into your gravity. And the only way that happens is through detachment. Not coldness, but clarity. She doesn't need you to be cruel. She needs you to be unmovable. Not out of pride, but out of self-respect. Because every woman, whether she admits it or not, longs for one thing. A man who can love her without fearing her. You want to know the cruel irony? The same woman who once begged for your love, who smiled at every message, who looked at you like you were her entire world. She's the one who now seems bored by your presence. And you sit there at night, staring at the same woman in your bed, wondering how something so warm turned this cold. You think maybe it's your fault. Maybe you've changed. Maybe you're not as interesting, not as exciting. So you try harder. You plan more. You listen longer. You say sorry faster. And the more effort you pour in, the emptier it feels. Because here's the truth no one dares to say out loud. The more you prove yourself to her, the less she values you. You see, attraction isn't built on fairness. It's built on polarity. It's not about equality. It's about energy. One leads, one follows. One gives structure, the other gives emotion. When both try to be soft, everything collapses into emotional soup. Too many feelings, no direction. And when the man loses his edge, the relationship loses its spark. A woman doesn't consciously want to dominate you, her biology does. Her subconscious keeps asking the same question over and over. Are you strong enough to contain me? And every time you bend, every time you chase, every time you explain yourself, the answer becomes clearer. No. That's when the love doesn't die. It transforms. Into pity. Into control. Into quiet disgust she can't explain. She starts talking to you like a child. Correcting your tone. Mocking your choices. And you mistake her criticism for attention. At least she still cares, right? Wrong. That's not care. That's contempt. And contempt is love's funeral. But here's where everything flips. The same way her respect fades when you chase, it reignites the second you stop. The moment you stop seeking her approval, when you can look her dead in the eyes and say, "I'm not here to convince you. You either see my worth or you don't." Something primal in her wakes up, because she realizes you're no longer afraid. You've escaped the gravity of her validation. You've stepped out of the cage she didn't even know she built. It's not cruelty. It's liberation for both of you. There's a reason every woman fears hearing the words, "You're not that different." Cuts deeper than any insult. Because her entire identity is built on being special, irreplaceable, the one who stands out. And when you calmly, without anger, strip away that illusion, she's forced to face something most people never do. She's not unique in how she loves, how she manipulates, how she tests. She's just another woman in a long line of women playing the same emotional game, and you finally stopped playing. I once spoke with a man who told me this story. He'd been with his wife for 7 years. They'd built a life together, kids, house, routine. But over time, she started pushing. She'd criticize how he worked, how he spoke, how he handled everything. He tried to adapt, to be the better man she kept asking for. But nothing was ever enough. One night, she snapped at him for forgetting to text while he was working late. He looked up from his plate and said quietly, "You know what? I don't think you'd like me even if I became the man in your head. Because he doesn't exist." And she froze. She didn't yell. She didn't walk away. She just looked at him, as if seeing him for the first time in years. Because in that moment he broke the spell. He wasn't begging anymore. He wasn't explaining. He was done. That's the moment women secretly dread. When a man stops trying to impress them and starts living by his own standards again. Because when a man no longer fears losing her, she realizes she has everything to lose. It's the reversal of power, not through anger, but through indifference. And indifference is the sharpest knife you can ever hold. When you no longer argue, no longer explain, no longer react, she has nothing left to fight. Her weapons turn to dust. Because every argument she starts is a fishing line. She's trying to catch your emotional attention. But when you stop biting, when you stay still and calm, she's left talking to her own reflection. Psychologically, it's devastating. Because women don't fear being hated, they fear being irrelevant. Hatred still means emotion. Indifference means death. "You know why I don't care anymore" is the most dangerous phrase a man can say? Because it isn't a threat. It's truth. It means her power is gone. It means her validation doesn't buy your peace anymore. It means the game is over. And ironically, that's when she wakes up. Suddenly, she starts remembering who you were. She misses your silence, your stillness, the way you didn't need her approval to exist. She starts dressing better, talking softer, being sweeter. Not out of manipulation, out of fear. Because she feels what she lost. The presence of a man who didn't flinch. Every woman fears a man who realizes his worth. Not because it threatens her, but because it forces her to face her own reflection. To see that the control she built her security on was an illusion. To realize that she never wanted to rule him. She just wanted to know he couldn't be ruled. And when she meets that kind of man again, the one who doesn't argue, doesn't explain, doesn't beg, something ancient inside her exhales. Because that's the man her instincts were waiting for all along. The man she can finally trust to hold her chaos without collapsing under it. The man who doesn't need her crown, because he already wears his own. There comes a point, and every man who's been broken knows this point, where silence says more than words ever could. It's when you've argued until your throat is dry. Explained until your chest is hollow. Tried to love her in every language you know, and she still finds a way to twist it into something ugly. That's when you stop. Not out of anger. Not out of revenge. Out of clarity. Because one day you wake up and realize, you don't need to win anymore. You don't need to convince her. You don't even need her to understand. You just need peace. And that's the exact moment she feels true fear. Not the fear of losing you physically, that's too simple. No, it's the fear of losing control over your emotions. The fear of no longer being able to pull your strings with tears, guilt, or silence. The fear that her chaos no longer shakes you. That's when the game ends. You see, women don't actually fear abandonment. They fear irrelevance. Because as long as she can still trigger you, she knows she matters. Every sigh, every argument, every emotional reaction, it feeds her sense of power. But when you look at her calmly and say, "I understand," and then simply walk away, her entire world tilts. Because suddenly, she's not in control anymore. And here's the twisted beauty of it. That's the moment she starts respecting you again. Because women don't respect weakness, even when they demand softness. They don't trust emotional servitude, even when they say they want vulnerability. What they crave, even if they can't admit it, is a man who stands firm in who he is, even when it costs him love. You see, the words women fear most aren't shouted in anger. They're whispered in calm certainty. "I don't need this. You're not that different. I'm done trying. I'm okay without you." Those words hit deeper than any insult ever could. Because they slice through her ego and reach the one place she guards most, her illusion of power. And once that illusion breaks, once she realizes you won't be manipulated by affection, by sex, by guilt, she feels something she hasn't felt in years: respect. Because every woman, beneath the surface, is built to trust a man who can't be broken by her emotions. Not because she wants to destroy him, but because she needs to know he won't disappear when the storm hits. That's why she tests. That's why she pushes. That's why she provokes. Every emotional explosion, every cold shoulder, every impossible demand. It's a question in disguise. Can I still feel safe in your strength? Most men fail that test. They get defensive. They try to fix it. They turn into emotional employees in their own relationships, clocking in and out of her moods. But the man who passes it, the man who remains calm, grounded, unbothered, becomes the gravity she orbits. And that's the paradox. The moment you stop chasing her is the moment she starts chasing your presence. The moment you stop explaining yourself is the moment she starts listening. The moment you stop fearing her loss is the moment she fears losing you. There's this silence that follows after a man reclaims his power. It's not empty, it's peaceful. He starts walking differently. He stops apologizing for breathing. He starts focusing on his life again, his goals, his purpose, his peace. And suddenly, she looks at him the way she did in the beginning. Except now, it's not infatuation. It's recognition. Recognition of something rare in the modern world. A man who doesn't need to be liked to be respected. And that's when she remembers why she loved him in the first place. Because despite everything, despite the chaos, despite the arguments and the tests, what she really wanted all along was a man she couldn't move. A man whose calm was louder than her storms. A man whose silence carried more power than her words. So when she hears him say those quiet, terrifying words, "I'm fine without you," what she feels isn't just fear. It's awakening. Because for the first time, she's no longer playing with a boy trying to please her. She's standing in front of a man who has nothing left to prove. And that's when the crown finally falls. Not because he took it from her, but because she lays it down herself.